Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Sicx Tarot. I'm your fantastic host Sicx. Thank you very much for watching. Now once again, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscription and even press that bell for further notifications. You can also follow me on the social medias. So what I'm going to do today, we're going to do a review of a really lovely deck because at the moment we're all kind of stuck inside. Not everyone's really having a good time. I mean, I've not murdered any of my family members yet, so I'm doing very well. I think we're on our second week now, so fun times for all. So I thought I'd review a nice, pleasant tarot deck, just to kind of get us all smiling. So without further ado, roll on that intro. Okay, so this deck is the Kawaii Tarot deck. Now, first off, as you can plainly see, it has a very basic sort of look to it, but really sweet as well. Kind of like if Hello Kitty was a tarot deck, which I now saying it out loud, I believe it is. So you've got a nice few cards at the front here. So you've got the Lovers, Wheel of Fortune, and the Magician, and there's some nice little people here and there, nice little symbols, pretty nice. I've got a thing on the back here. I'll let you pause that so you can read that. Don't want to get my dyslexia flare up again. Now of course I like to do my favourite thing with whipping out my tape measure. So this book itself is about just short of 5.5 inches across, and it is just over 7 inches in length. And so we'll have a quick look inside. So you've got the book that's kind of attached inside the box, and the tarot excuse me, and the tarot in half, so stored in these nice little boxes. Now the tarot aren't currently in the boxes because as soon as I got these I already started using them for myself. I'll just have a quick look at the book. There you go, got the publisher at the back there, and yeah, these are just very nice and lovely. So when you take a look at the book itself, there's actually quite a lot of detail and explanation to the meaning of all the cards, which when you consider the artwork is quite basic. It's a lot of detail, which is quite surprising. But it's also kind of illustrated quite lovely as well. I love its little breakdown there. Right, that's enough about the book. You want to see the deck. So, we'll move on to that. So, as we get onto the cards themselves, one thing you'll notice, other than the fact of how cute the back actually is, they're also very small. So, we're actually looking at a deck that is 4 inches by about 2.5. So, these are really nice pocket size, to the point where just like even like a small bag that you might buy a crystal or necklace in, those sort of bags, that's the sort of thing this would be carried in. But enough about that. The cardstock itself is quite thick, surprisingly. So this deck itself is a bit thicker than like your standard from like the Scarabeo or something. But we'll take a quick look at some of the cards here. Now, as these are smaller, I'm going to have a few more extras instead. So we're going to have some there. I'm not going to have them in any particular number order today. So, as you can tell, they're pretty much giving you the feel of the card, but without necessarily going into too much detail. So these are just some of my favourites out of these. The Fool being one of my favourites. I quite enjoy this, and the idea of the hat with the white rose for the Rider-Waite, with the Fool carrying the white rose. The simplicity of this, like the devil here, the little skull. The Hanged Man I think is pretty cool, doing one of the rocker sirens with the halo over his head. That I think is pretty cool. Death being quite a simple design. Strength looks quite nice with the line with the halo, although I would have rather had the infinity symbol on it. Then you have the Chariot which is once again just nice and delightful. Now these aren't necessarily a deck for beginners. That once again this would probably be your 4th or 5th deck. The Judgment there with the little gavel, and the Empress there with the sign of Venus in the shape of a heart. Now this might be a very quick review just because there's not really much I can talk about. Also with this one you've got the Wheel of Fortune being a nice little Ferris wheel there, and the Emperor being a goat with a crown, which I think is pretty cool. But overall these have got very easygoing energies. They feel that these are a nice calming deck. If you wanted to sit back and not have anything too severe, this should just be perfect. So what we're going to do now, we're going to quickly move on to some of the minors and see how they look. Now you can't deny the fact that these look both cute and adorable. So first of all, we've got a lollipop for the wands, nice little teacup for the cups, nice little star in the coin there, and a friendly sword is the only way I can describe that. But as I said, this is quite a minimalist sort of deck. So if you do like decks with nice artwork but great detail, this is not for you. Definitely not for you. But at the same time, there's a nice, as I said, relaxing feeling to it. There's nothing too stressful. Even though these would be tricky to actually work with, if you do wind up getting used to pip cards, these are a nice way to kind of step in and kind of get used to the feel of them before getting into something little more detailed. So once again, this isn't quite how I do most of my reviews. Some of you people who've been following me for a while, because as these are small enough, I can kind of fit them all on screen. So now we're looking at the rest of the wands. So in the fact that the wands are all various forms of sweets or candy, I like how the 2 of wands is 2 candy canes. That's pretty cool. Lollipops there, heart-shaped lollipops, Chupa Chup style lollipops. Just the different types of sweets and candy, because this is one of the reasons why I feel that this is kind of a very easy sort of deck to kind of get used to using. Once again, not necessarily for someone who's new to it, but it's just someone who just wants something nice, sweet and relaxing, and these are perfect for that, because, and they're so nice and friendly. The only problem is, once again, unless you're quite used to using other decks, some of these would be very, very difficult to deal with. I've made a case before in the fact that some decks either just choose pips or choose images, and then you get those really annoying decks that do both. This is one of those decks that kind of do both, but puts enough variation where it's not too bad. So next we're kind of looking at the coins. Now once again, unless you really know what you're working with, these would be quite tricky. So with the 2 of coins, unless you kind of know what it's supposed to look like, you won't really get that. But if you've worked with cards, if you've worked with different decks or been working quite a while, you'll get a closer affinity to like the meaning of the 2 and the 4, rather than say either the 3 or the 8. So once again, this still just continues the whole theme of there's enough variation to make it not like standard, but these still are going to be tricky for someone brand new. Do not make these someone's first deck. Don't make this your first deck. Okay, so next we have the lovely cups. Now these are really, as I said, these are one of the more adorable suits out of the whole set. This is the one that makes me think of Hello Kitty. I know there is a Hello Kitty deck out there somewhere, I just need to get it. But yeah, so I like the different variations, similar to the wands in how various types of cups are. So you've got a teacup, an actual chalice, and like just a nice mug, and all their little variations and different, even just the placements over the moon, tipped upside down over a halo, stuff like that. These are still quite lovely and sweet, and The deck has that consistency with it. It's just all nice and charming. Now lastly, of course, we have the swords. Now everyone's least, at least from my experience, most people's least favourite of the suits. Now, unlike with the others, there's not a lot of variation just because all the swords are the same design. So they are very... They kind of fill up a lot of the image, if that makes sense. It feels that there's a lot of, not necessarily frustration or confusion, but it definitely feels like these are some of the stronger messages you'd get from these. So once again, the Three of Swords, for example, is a classic version of the three, and that's basically it. Everything else seems to have, and once again, unless you know what it means, you won't, unless you really know what the other decks are like, you won't really know how to read these. Once again, similar to the 9, unless you know what it's supposed to look like, you're not really going to get it. So once again, these have a nicer feel to it than if it was like the standard Rider-Waite or Lenormand, not Lenormand, Marseille. But at the same time, there's still not enough, in my opinion, at least how I feel, there's not enough variation in the placements of the swords or anything in addition. So like the Six of Swords, you have this kind of branch here, but that doesn't feel like it means that much, whilst most of the other cards pretty much just have swords, with the exception of when the only other additions is the heart and the Three of Hearts and this heart and the 10. So there's not enough variation personally for me for this to be, once again, something you can get really in depth with. You'd have to work with these a lot to really get a feel for them. So for this one, I just picked some of my more favourite looking court cards. So instead of just doing one of each, I did 2 of each. So with this one, I like the Page of Cups. I like his little earphones in this one, looks quite cool. Whilst I like how serious the Page of Wands is in this one. Of Swords, sorry. Now the Knight of Pentacles looks kind of very solemn, whilst the Knight of Cups looks quite not courageous. Looks like it's full of charisma. The Queen of Wands here looks quite cheerful, whilst the Queen of Cups looks quite similarly confident here, but probably just a bit more chilled, not as chilled as the Knight here. And I just love how jolly the King of Pentacles is here, and the King of Cups just looks like a pretty cool person. So once again, there's nothing really characterly distinctive. They all look lovely, but there's nothing really that would says, looking at these, I wouldn't necessarily say that these kind of fit the normal mould of the standard site of the court cards. But there's still a nice variation, and they are still a nice comfort. So during the time we're going through at the moment, if you want something that's just nice and unintrusive, but still give you time to think and kind of have a direction, this deck is really good. I do recommend this, especially if you're just feeling a bit down. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this review. You can follow me on the social medias, and I'll speak to you soon. Stay home and stay safe. Bye.